Let's talk about it now. This is the next. We're here in the next section. It's JP. Second character, Steven. Where did you put JP on your tier list?
JP is an S-rank character, man.
This S-rank character.
He's really good. Before the game dropped, just looking at kind of everything everyone can do, I predicted that Manon and JP would be potentially top tier. I was like, look, I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling based on what they can do. It kind of seems like we're here now. Again, it's like it's not.
Is this just
yet.
Wish fulfillment now?
No, I could see early on. I could see what that character was capable of, and I just was thinking like just based on what I knew about the game. I'm like, it seems like JP is going to be really good. And then the game came out, and you started seeing a bunch of pros go to him and do all this stuff, and he's really good. I haven't played him myself, so I can only speak from what I've seen, what I've talked to you about, John, and you know what I've played against. But it's like he's really good, man. He seems really good. His zoning is really strong. He obviously he can pin you down in full screen and make things really difficult for you. He can put the portals out and teleport if he wants to get in and do a crazy like a cross up or wherever he goes. He's got corner control. Like he has some crazy mix-ups and things in the corner that are pretty gnarly. Like he's one of those characters that you go, okay, like his weakness is be up close to him, but then he's got OD counter, which stops strikes, stops supers, stops DI, stops command grab, stops regular throws, only loses to projectiles. And if you're a character like Lily, like the character that I play, I don't have projectiles, so I get countered on everything, which is just dandy.
Neutral jump. But yeah, John, your thoughts on JP?
Yeah, sure.
So he is the number one character in terms of the most master ranked people out there. 154 people. So hands down number one. He's played by Sonic Fox, Nemo, the Four Phils, a former Falk player, and then Brian F. So this is a highly technical character, but for him to be played this much at the highest levels, I think it's very telling that he's extremely strong in this game. If you were going to tell me Manon's not number one, I would think it was JP, so I have him in S rank and number 2 overall. This guy he feels like he's got pretty much every tool you'd want to have from full screen. And where he does struggle a little bit is again, John was talking about this drive rushing in on him, basically from neutral, basically just kind of going wild on him. You can blow him up and stuff, but the thing about it is, playing some zoners and whatnot in prior games like Rose and stuff, like giving those characters a DP or a hardcore counter or whatever is such a great tool to have. But JP's got more than that. He's got a full-on OD counter that blows up a bunch of stuff and is not super easy to punish him on. You can bait it out for sure, but it's not something that you can just sit back and block and punish. It is something that you have to kind of bait out and blow him up for in a proper way. Not like you can't bait it out like a traditional DP as easily because there's 2 orbs shoot on your head, basically, right?
You would bait it out just like you would bait out a DP. In fact, you could do the neutral jump, and then that would lose to a DP a lot of times where it wouldn't lose to this counter.
The thing about it is, though, you give up some space there. You give up your pressure to try to hope that a counter comes. And then if you neutral jump, if he doesn't do the counter, he can convert that into a crouching heavy punch, probably can send you across the screen, and then there goes your whole turn. There goes everything. So it's, you can bait it out, but it's like you're giving up some very important pressure and distance for it.
The crouching heavy resets to mid screen, not to full screen.
I mean,
when you gain ground on JP, you need to take damage off of him. Like it is not the kind of thing where you can sit there and afford to just be super patient against him, because he'll push you right back out. And when you are full screen against this character, I don't think there's a single fighter in the game who can handle him. He is hands down the best character from full screen, and it's like, what are your options there? And some characters like Guile, who I play, he can throw an OD fireball right into JP's face and blow through his stuff. I'm not saying there are no options. I'm just saying that JP has a very heavy advantage when he has pushed you to full screen. So when you do finally get up on him and you don't do the right thing, it's just so disheartening against this character. He feels incredibly strong.
I have JP in A tier, so take that, guys. He is very strong right now, and I think of him as a reverse Dalsum, in the sense that Dalsum usually takes a ton of time for those that are going to play him to get him to a level where he's formidable against everybody else, and then he has all these crazy situations that nobody knows how to deal with, like 6 months to a year to 2 years to 3 years into the game, and Dalsum kind of catches up and becomes a tour de force then. JP is still technical, is still different, has a lot of different options with all of his different fireballs and heights and the command grab and the spike and the snaps and all that kind of stuff. But it's intuitive enough that people are able to use it effectively on the outset, and everybody else is having to learn how to deal with that stuff to begin with. So I think, one, he's going to start with a little more advantage than he's going to have as people figure things out. And I know we were talking about it yesterday, where once he's got you full screen, he can just do whatever he wants with fireballs and spikes and all that stuff. It's like, no, once he throws that first spike, you can actually close the gap into mid screen, and that changes his zoning game significantly. So when I get a full screen, if I'm getting more than just a spike, that's usually because people just don't know. But as soon as I throw that one out there and they block or parry it, they can move forward into a place where I'm much less comfortable throwing stuff. But until you know that, and until you understand that, I'm getting a whole bunch of mileage out of that zoning. So understandable. But when it comes down to it, as the JP player, I feel like none of the matches are really free, and he can win pretty much any match, like in any setup, but it really comes down to the interactions. It's like, did you jump at the right time? Did you read me? And did I read you correctly? This is both in the zoning, mid-range zoning, as well as in the footsie battle. His footsies are fine. They're pretty decent, and they can convert if he drive rushes into that full screen zone game where he wants to be. He's got some tricky stuff with like his Super 2, where he can where it causes all of the different projectiles to appear on screen, and two of them are overheads, one's a low, one's a mid, and you got to deal with him teleporting around you. Like, yeah, he's got some zany stuff, but as people figure out, like, well, you just jump forward out of that unless he's done it on hit to you, and then he's lost his level 2 super. Like, once people figure that kind of stuff out, I see the character waning a little bit. I don't think, and I was worried about this, I thought people might figure him out to the point where, now that I know that you're not going to get away with a bunch of stuff, and you're going to DI through all of his strings and this is and that's, plus he's got not the greatest defense, save for that counter for sure, that he would fall below viability tier. I don't think he's going to fall below viability tier. I think that JP will be a solid mid tier when it comes down to it at the end of things. A little more advantage against characters like Zangief, maybe Manom. But at the end of the day, I think it's very much an understanding battle, and two, it's going to be a player versus player battle more than anything else when it comes to JP. But I do think he's got absolute advantage right now because people can fairly easily, intuitively figure out his strategies, and it's harder to figure out how to deal with those strategies. But I think that he's going to kind of come down a little bit, but still stay above mid-tier, viability tier.
Yeah,
the one
he's
thing
being played so much in tournament right now by so many people and winning that I don't see this character falling off at all. I actually see this character getting stronger. Steven, you were saying?
Yeah, I was just gonna say to reply to the stance on the full screen pressure stuff, and after the first spike, if you know to jump forward, then you get into a much better position. I've been trying to study that situation a lot and figure out where the gaps are, and I tried like practicing perfect parries on the spike, which is also really difficult to do because you can perfect parry from full screen and then drive rush in. It's really difficult, the timing to get that, but I'll just say I've been trying to study that and specifically look for ways to get out of that pressure. You can do it, but it's on the receiving end, I will tell you, it's really damn tough. Like, it sounds like, oh, just jump out of it, and it's like, sure, theoretically, but the JP player, if you have a competent one, they know that you're looking to do that. They know you're trying to move forward, and they're going to stop your advances. And once he gets on that roll of just doing projectile after projectile and spike and all of that, you can be locked down for a good while, and it's hard to get out of it. It really is. So
yeah, I mean, if you jump at the wrong time, like all he has to do is lay down his medium spike, it will catch you right out of the air. I had a GP player doing that to me last night, and it was he knew I was going to jump, and he's like, nope, you're not. You're back there full screen. Hold this. I will say the one thing that I think is a potentially very large factor here that we haven't really wrapped our head around here in the community, and that is parries, specifically perfect parries. I know Steven was talking about how difficult that is to perfect parry his ground spike and whatnot, but that did happen with Third Strike, where people were not using parries a lot, and then as the game went on with more time, we really learned how to adapt to parries and how to just incorporate them in a normal part of our gameplay, where it was like you're basically doing option selects on the controller like all the time to basically do a parry, or just walk forward or do whatever and stuff. And I don't think we've quite got to that level here with Street Fighter 6, but I think that is coming for sure. And that is the one factor I can see with JP that might knock him down a little bit, where if you can parry kind of through a lot of his stuff, I could see him being a worse character. But right now, he's really good.
The other big thing about him is that you can drive rush through a lot of his fireballs or spikes and such. The only thing that kind of shuts that down is if he's throwing out the command grab, which is a very big risk in and of itself. He throws a full screen command grab, you can just hold forward and you'll jump the command grab, and then your second jump will be a jump in punish for him because he's still in recovery. But that's more of like once you've been trained to start parrying and blocking and holding your ground there, then that command grab comes out and it catches you looking, kind of a thing. But you can drive rush through a lot of his stuff because it's not as active as a traditional fireball. And once people start figuring that out, there's still an answer for him, because then he has to stop his zoning, be ready for that drive rush or that advance forward, and try to stop it or stuff it with standing medium kick or a standing fierce punch, stuff like that. The game does evolve, but the point is, once you've peppered in, and I don't know how much drive rushing through fireballs and his zoning you guys have been doing yet, but once you start doing that, it stops him from doing as much of that, because now he's got to be worried about sticking stuff out. Otherwise, you're up in his face and it's his ass. So there's a lot of evolution that I think still has yet to be explored when people are playing against JP. I'm interested to see how it all plays out, and I could see a future where, man, his zoning is just so solid that I do think it's going to always just come down to the ability of the individual players that are contesting each other, and that's where you want this game to be. Is where you want a fighting game to be in the first place. But
I want to say on that note, actually, because we talked about this when Monat came out in Street Fighter V, and Steven Dream King here was really adamant that, like, look, you're going to get better at fighting the character because more lab time, but she's so technical and she has so many options, she's going to get better too. And that's one thing I don't think we're properly accounting for here with JP, is JP players are going to get a lot better because his options are incredibly good. So it's not just a one-sided thing where the community is going to level up and get better at him. Yes, that's going to happen, but JP players are going to level up a lot too because of his popularity and how dominant he is, and he may just stay exactly where he's at right now as one of the best characters in the game, in my opinion.
Could be.
Yeah, I agree. And just really quickly, a note on the forward moving stuff and drive rushing in. That typically seems to be the answer against JP. You want forward moving attacks and you want drive rush and stuff. The one thing I will say to that is the startup of your moves can get caught by a lot of his stuff too. So it's as Lily with Condor Spire and stuff like that, I basically need to have Windclad and overdrive version to try to get through a lot of that stuff. But even then, sometimes I get tagged by stuff, and it's like, if the JP knows what they're doing and they make their pressure from full screen really tight, those gaps are hard to find, man. I will just say it from that side. It's in theory, yes, move forward, drive rush in, do all that stuff. As someone who's been really trying to practice that and find those gaps, putting it into play is a lot harder than it sounds.
I think the way I would put it too, and this will probably be the last I have to say about him, but it's that most situations outside of after he's just thrown you full screen and he gets some free pressure, which you're probably going to block or parry. And I, by the way, when that happens, I'm thinking I'm gaining a little bit of meter and I'm taking a little bit of your meter away. Anything beyond that is bonus in terms of like if I actually hit you with the spike or stuff like that. But I expect to be able to get a blocked spike. And you spend a little meter blocking it. And then if they're burned out, I just go ham on trying to get some chip damage going. But I think that outside of that situation, it's almost always there's a rock to a paper to a scissor in terms of what you can do and what he can do. And that's why I keep coming back to it's going to be player versus player. It's just that not everybody knows the rock and the paper and the scissors, and it's easier for him to implement them right now and kind of get away with a bunch of crap that he won't be getting away with, as just throwing fireball after fireball after fireball. I don't see people doing as much in the way of DIing that or even jumping forward. And one other thing is his anti-airs, his cross-up anti-air, he is non-existent. He's got to counter you or parry you if you're going to cross him up. If you're right on him, the crouching fierce punch is pretty decent, but he doesn't get a lot off of it, and it's kind of a reset situation where you're both back at that same spot, and he's got 100, 200 damage or whatever it is off of that. So it's not the best. If you jump in from far away and he gets forward roundhouse, that is the business anti-air, which it's kind of hard to do because it depends on the height and all this stuff, but he can combo that into some big full screen away into level 3, whatever. That's a lot harder to do, and if you're right on top of him, it's going to whiff every time and you just cross him up. But yeah, he does have some decent anti-airs, but at the end of the day, outside of being full screen and once you know how to go from full screen to mid screen, he's playing a rock paper scissors game with his strategy, and it can all be beaten
until he has level 3. then level 3 he's pretty much an unstoppable force. Isn't it full screen invincibility? Like on his level 3?
I think it hits everywhere, doesn't it?
It hits everywhere, full screen
It teleports.
invincibility. And it's like, what the hell? Like, seriously.
It'll lose to EX booms or EX projectiles though, because they were. It does teleport for sure, and it goes through fireballs. No, it goes through, but the fireballs will recover in time unless you do it like immediately as they do it. But if like I do a reaction timing to what I would normally do to a regular fireball, I'm like, I got him. Nope. If they did EX, they block it, and then I'm out 3 super bars and getting punish countered. It is a very good, but it's certainly it's balanced in a way that like I can tell that they've thought about this and that's pretty much everything through Street Fighter 6 thus far. I've seen is everything has a counter to it.
I love that you said a full screen
Django
super that just destroys people is balanced and fair. So hopefully they give that to Rose when she is added to the game, and then we'll have a balanced and fair character too.
Just wait till I talk about Lily's supers, and you're gonna be like, oh wow, JP seems way better.
Well, and that's maybe a good transition to go here. I have Lily next to discuss, and I'm gonna lead it with this. Is Lily the worst character in the game? Hey, thanks for checking out that clip from our Week 1 Street Fighter 6 tier list discussion. If you'd like to hear what we had to say about Lily, you can do so in this video right here. And if you want to hear the entire discussion where we cover all 18 characters and each give our tier lists, you can do that right here.